this journey, um, how have the lessons of the dark night of the soul um, given me the perfect training? And what do I need in order to progress to the next phase? Or what do you need to progress to the next phase if you're in this phase? So the dark night of the soul is the challenging phase. It's meant to be where you'll confront your limiting beliefs, your past traumas and fears. This is necessary step for you to become into your sovereign full power. So I feel as though I've tackled this in different chapters in different areas. So there was times at 16 where I was confronting through therapy my anxiety and my struggle at that point with eating. I would literally go out to a meal with family, and I wouldn't eat for the whole time we were there. I remember my 16th birthday, we went out for this huge meal and I spent most of it in the bathroom because I just couldn't eat. There'd be this, couldn't go down. And they thought I had an eating disorder, but it was like literally anxiety at being in places. My boyfriend at the time was from quite a nice family, and we'd sit down, and that was when I'd find we'd be there and I wouldn't be able to eat. And it was my body was kind of screaming at the energy that was going on around it, but didn't know that it was energy. I know now, but at the time I didn't. But I did go through therapy and understand and work out things that had come up about the sexual abuse incidents that had happened for me at 8. So that was really helpful and allowed me to understand myself, to understand people, to understand therapists and that relationship with a therapist. Hypnotherapy as well. She gave me self-hypnosis things to do, which was quite, I suppose at the time, it wasn't quite, you didn't see that very often. It was hypnotherapy back then. It was more for like hypnotists were more acts and stuff. It was, and I remember people saying, "Oh, that's dangerous. Don't mess with that." Whereas now, obviously, the tapping and EFT is something I'm doing my training in, so it's about rewriting those brain. And it was very sort of seeing it from that side was great. There was times as well with confidence. One particular boyfriend who was very, very, very controlling, and that kind of challenged me to push through that relationship. There was elements of abuse that continued, obviously, where of my values and self-worth, but I got through that whole time, came out of that, even went beyond that relationship. Other breakups that I'm sure most people had been through and gone through those moments, but learning to love me and not look for love externally attracted me to the person I actually went on to marry, because they were someone that were very much in their own skin. They could take it or leave it. They were a little bit disconnected in a way. They had their own issues still, but definitely loved me for me and warts and all. So that was definitely a time in my life. I remember at that point, sort of 20s, through my 20s, I would say that's when I had one kind of dark night of the soul episode. Friends would say to me, "God, your life is like EastEnders. There was all of the things you've been through. You should write about, kind of, you should write a book." That was often said to me about when people knew and learnt of my life. And my upbringing and my mum and the challenges and my school and all of these things that made me who I am today on my journey. But I think the biggest part of my dark night of the soul, and the part that's continued, where I've been sort of working out my fears and my limiting beliefs, and I continue to do this as a process now. I've learned that this is really part of lifting off layers. You gradually, each time you get down, and then you go a little bit more, and it's gold. And in fact, the time I'm doing this is because it's smack bang between these two eclipses. Perfect time. Astrologically, we've got this Pluto alignment going on, which is like delving down, soul retrieval stuff. Really good. Like, this is gold mine for shadow work, to just work with it and go with it and utilize it as something that you can go, right, yeah, okay, another thing I've sorted, yeah, I worked that out. Knowing yourself on a level that you've never done before is the process and the phases. It becomes extremely important. The cat's running about. But yeah, not having money was part of that. And it's like I had to literally walk away from all forms of money coming in to see that money still comes in, that there is an abundance when you've got it coming. It just does actually, it's okay that life does actually take care of you. It's not that I wanted to kind of deliberately went out of my way to do that. It's just I became a mom and reliant on my husband, and didn't have my own revenue in that way. But it taught me actually it flow in a way to surrender and trust on a deeper level. And I remember listening to Louise L. Hay in this video, audiobook that I had of her when she was alive, and she was telling this woman, like, you could just take $5 and you could do it with nothing, but if you wanted to have $5 and then you could make money from that and then see how it grows. And she said, this other woman got up, she said, yeah, I actually went down the road and there was like this sign, Hoover free to anyone wants it. And I see that all the time. I'm a proud member of my local community Facebook page, and there's always people going, does anyone want this table, does anyone want this? So there's an abundance everywhere. That's been the biggest life lesson for the financial dark night of the soul, when in order to open up to money coming from a higher source, for it to be aligned from a higher source and not being these frequencies, this energy that wasn't resonating with me. I needed to see it for its beauty. And Louise L. Hay says that a rose is money is just as beautiful as a rose. It's just a frequency. So redefining on this course has been redefining my own relationship of how I view money. Even though I do arigato to money, I'm grateful for the abundance around me. You look look where you're sitting right now and think about the cost of everything in the room that is around you, the cost of the sofa, the cost of even the pussycat to buy, just everything. There's filled with abundance in our lives when we think about it. If you've got food in your belly, it's come from you. If you're thinking, if there's a fear about buying, when I went into that fear, and I very much went into that, I started growing stuff. And taking things like an apple is a perfect example. Having that apple, all of the seeds you get from that apple can be planted and create a tree to create more apples. There's limes and lemons, the same thing, and growing veggies and microgreens and stuff. Starting off small, just being out in nature really tunes you into that abundance. And that was the biggest trust and surrender and understanding. Whether there's money in the bank or not, there is an abundance around you, and tapping into that and that trust was definitely a necessity for me to totally learn to let go, totally learn to trust, and see the synchronicities, see my own beliefs around money and my own fears around money and how that had come up. And that, I think, has been the biggest journey, and I am on that journey and continuing to be on that journey as a step to step into my full power and my potential, and not allow any attachment to how things should be or what society deems exchange and abundance should be. And I will watch this space as I'll share my journey and continue to share my journey on that. But yeah, just briefly, I'd say that the lessons learned were through heartbreak, the takeaways, like bullet points of lots of different times over the years. We've been learning that I'm never alone, that there's always been that resolute, deep well within me. And then actually learning to trust that as I started to hear, because you'd think, oh God, I'm hearing voices, I'm going crazy. That would be the whole thing. Stepping away from it first to know that I'm not, and then stepping back into it when I was ready in my own divine timing. Knowing that love and loving yourself on the deepest of levels, and knowing you are enough, that I'm not enoughness, comes up time and time again. A rapid transformational therapist, Marissa Peer, I can hear her going, you know, that loving, I am enough, mirror work with Louise L. Hay, all of those things. I went through all of those processes, and I'd been doing those processes with my members, tapping and EFT and affirmations, all tools to help. But at the end of the day, they are just a spark to get your switched over, to get that fire burning, to give you the nudges, if you like, the reminder, when you are remembered, when you are becoming one and in your fullness and stepping into that power of who you truly are, that's when you feel it in the soul, you feel it in the body. So I hope that if you're going through challenging times and phases where you feel confronted and your limiting beliefs are coming up and you're feeling those fears, understand that it's all a necessary step, whether that's your healing journey with cancer, your mum dying, father dying, these things that have come up, I know, with people I know, including myself, mum passing, letting go of what society thinks you are, who you're meant to be. Once you step out of all the boxes and you let yourself be free of those, you can delve deep into that shadow and know not to fear nothing but fear itself. And it's never as bad as we actually make it out to be in our mind. And it can be a beautiful process when you slowly start to peel away the layers and work with it through journaling, work with it through kind of processes like I'm doing through this course, or like I've in workshops, in meditations. However resonates with you, I highly recommend that you take the time to connect to you, to open up to the fullness of who you are. And that dark night is not a dark night at all. All it is it's a closed, open cave that you're fearful of walking in. But when you go in, when you're in that cave, you realise that actually you can see the light clearly. You can see the light, which is you.